The Waterboyz is a 2024 released crime drama film about Atlanta youth taking initiatives to sell cold bottled waters in the midst of a crumbling economy, as opposed to dealing drugs for sustainability and growth. Now, according to IMDb, it's evidently solely written by Coke Daniels and produced by him alongside a few others, presumably. I find it a little ironic and kind of funny that a guy by the name of Coke Daniels made a movie about selling cold bottled waters as opposed to dealing drugs, but it's not that fucking funny. I just wanted to point it out. Some white person might laugh at it. I don't fucking know. Anyway, it stars what appears to be some newcomers, relatively speaking, in the acting arena at least, and some generally notable celebrities you might know, such as Damani Harris. You know, if you guys don't know who that is, that's T.I.'s son. He also made a name for himself as a rapper and things of that nature. And then we have another rapper by the name of Quavo, formerly of the Migos, as well as a few cameo appearances by a few others. Bruh, this movie took me on a whole roller coaster ride, and I don't even mean that in a good way. This movie was straight ass. That's ass. See, because this movie just exploits real drug problems, but especially drug problems in Atlanta, right? And it swaps out the actual drugs for the most part for waters, just so they can have a plot for a fucking movie, right? So there's that. But one of the other things that I found odd about the movie was that the mayor of the city in the film concentrates and enforces police presence and police activity onto the Waterboyz, quote unquote, ultimately having them arrested for merely selling fucking bottled waters. Well, which would obviously never happen in real life unless there was correspondence to them selling drugs alongside it. Like, what the hell?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if that wasn't like terrible enough, Keely McDowell, I think is how you say his name, the guy who plays Drew, the protagonist of the movie, has arguably the worst acting in the entire film, despite him being the protagonist. It's ass. Like, he acts like AI the entire fucking time. It's terrible. And it's like, yeah, this might be his first movie as far as him being the face of the movie and stuff. I get it. I understand that. So I don't want to be too harsh on the guy. You know, like, he's like 22, 23. He's a young guy. I get it. But the movie fucking ass, bro. Drew, our main character, and his friend Dolo are walking down the street in the beginning scene, and they're having a conversation about how the street life isn't worth it. Drew cites his reason why, and Dolo follows by saying something similar, and that's the end of that. Seconds after that, Dolo grabs a cooler that he stashed underneath a bush, and they continue the conversation and pretty much goes how you would suspect. Eventually, the conversation gets a little preachy and a little cringy because Drew claims that girls are looking up to strippers now, and they show a clip of some girls twerking and things like that on the camera. And they never revisit that again in the movie. Like, there's nothing connected to it at all. Like, there's just nothing. So it was just something that they just kind of wanted to say, I guess. But it literally had no purpose to be said other than to just be said. And, you know, sure, there might be validity in what they're saying in that particular sentence or whatever and stuff, but it just, they didn't need to say it because it had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Like, why did you say that? Because just a minute ago, they were talking about gentrification briefly, and then they were talking about the fact that people had to hustle, and, you know, that's something that you kind of see throughout the rest of the movie. You didn't need to bring up stripping and, you know, pussy popping at all, really. Like, if you're gonna write that in and you're gonna have them say that, at least have some consistency in the plot and show instances of things like that happening, just so it all kind of ties together. I don't know, maybe that's me asking too much, or maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I just found that kind of weird. Anyway, for the most part, Drew seems like he has a good head on his shoulders. He wants to make money because he wants to elevate in life. He wants to get a car and he wants to go to college and he wants to major in graphic design. And his friend Dolo kind of just wants to get more money and fuck bitches. So, he's kind of a knucklehead. I mean, let's be real here. You can do both. You could fuck bitches, get money, and, achieve an education or whatever. But, this is pretty authentic to actual experience that you might see in Atlanta because, you do have some people who don't actually care about that sort of shit and they just want to make money and, kind of line their pockets and just be able to, trick on girls and stuff and constantly keep getting pussy. And hey, man, whatever, bro. You can tell Dolo is very materialistic and he doesn't care about much and he just doesn't really give a fuck about nuance and stuff. And, that's cool or whatever. It's not cool, but like it's realistic is the point that I'm making. But, interestingly enough, Dolo is actually my favorite character in the movie. His acting is literally superior to the protagonist. Everybody other than Drew actually sounds like they're from Atlanta. Like you can probably identify specific key areas in Atlanta that have people who sound exactly like them. But Drew, he sounds like an out-of-towner, to be completely honest. But I mean, obviously not everybody from Atlanta sounds a certain way. There's exceptions, but I don't know. I just found that kind of interesting too. And of course, it's 2024 and everybody knows a woke person, so you gotta have your token woke guy in the movie or a woke girl. But in this case, it's a woke guy. And as you suspected, he's fucking annoying and he's corny, but I mean, you kind of already knew that. Every chance he gets, he says something pro-black or something woke or whatever, and, no one seems to really care. They kind of just brush him off. He's a really exaggerated character too, because no one in real life actually fucking talks like him. It's like literally stupid. They even gave him an afro pick and he doesn't even have a huge fro. He doesn't have a fro really at all, but they did that just to drive the point home that he's pro-black. It's like, dude, it was already obvious from the fucking beginning. There's a black lesbian girl here in the friend group. She's a little over the top, but that's actually believable, especially considering the fact that they're young and they're probably well on their way to adulthood. They're probably teenagers, most likely fresh out of high school. So you could honestly picture that actually being the case in a lot of these cliques and things like that. So I ain't mad at it. She's sort of likable, but similar to everybody else, she doesn't really get as much screen time as the protagonist, which, I mean, that's okay and stuff, but it's like she's kind of just there. She kind of falls to the wayside, honestly. So the other kid had hopes and dreams of becoming a professional athlete, but that couldn't happen because he had an injury, and that's pretty much where his story stops. Yeah, not much depth for really any of the characters, to be completely honest with you, but it's fine. So about 4 minutes in, this is our introduction to all 5 characters that are, I guess, important to the story. Drew being the most important, with him being the main character. There's a point in the movie where Drew breaks the fourth wall to tell us the economics of selling water. He goes to Walmart with Dolo to load up on water. And of course, they grab ice for the cooler. The whole point of this segment or scene or whatever is basically just to explain the pricing and the economics of, selling water and things like that. And, it's supposed to be some little cool little fun fact kind of vibe or whatever. It's cool. After they leave Walmart, he's still breaking the fourth wall and he's basically telling the viewers that this is for a good cause and things like that. And it's not just selling water. Pretty cool stuff, for the most part and stuff. It's definitely heartfelt stuff. And I don't mean to sound like a prick or an asshole saying that. I genuinely think that was pretty cool of him to do. And that's probably the last time you'll see a fourth wall being broken in this movie, if I'm not mistaken. So they're selling water for a few minutes and then eventually they come across Damani's character selling drugs and stuff while they're in the middle of finalizing their water sales and things like that. And Quavo pulls up on Damani's character and pulls out a strap on him because he wants his cut. The Waterboyz are just standing idly by in fucking plain sight, not hiding or anything, just staring at fucking Quavo rob Damani. And it's like, why are you standing in plain sight? Get the fuck out of here. Drew's standing there looking like a fucking lost puppy or something. Quavo plays a character by the name of Little Zoo in this movie. He's a complete crash out, So, that kind of explains the depth of his character, if you want to call it depth. He's a ruthless killer that just goes around just killing people and robbing people and, setting up shop and stuff like that. Regular drug dealer shit, you know what I mean? Like, it's funny though. He seems to be this big time drug dealer in this movie. Yet he comes to this specific area where the Waterboyz are selling fucking water constantly. You don't have other areas to sell your drugs?
Man, sit your ass down.
This is your only area to set up shop? That's never really revisited or explained in the movie, by the way. He just comes to the area, like, I think that one time or like more than once. Yeah, I think it's twice and maybe 3 times. And there's never any scenes where you see him, rolling up on his crew, his little foot soldiers, telling them, hey, you got my money and stuff like that, like on some paid in full shit. Anyway, Quavo sees the fucking morons across the street, staring him down, mean mugging him. By the morons, I mean the Waterboyz, obviously. And he attempts to go over there because he kind of wants in on their operation too, even though they're not selling drugs. But he's like, oh, well, you guys can't make money on my block at all because this is my block. Meanwhile, they're selling water. Drug dealers don't actually care about shit like this. But anyway, a fucking cop pulls up. Quavo's like, oh shit, let's leave. And that's the end of that, basically. By the way, the cop that pulls up is a woman, by the way. She fine as a motherfucker. So they approach the cop car and the police officer is asking if everything is okay, and they claim that everything is fine, essentially. And they go back to selling the remainder of their waters, and Drew goes home and fills out an application. So while Drew is applying for college, he catches something on television with the mayor talking about the Waterboyz, because a news correspondent, prior to the mayor even showing up on screen, is talking about it, and he overhears it and he looks up. So the mayor has this hunch that the Waterboyz aren't actually just selling water, they're selling drugs, and he wants them off the streets immediately because he's a fucking moron. The mayor feels like this because there were certain crash outs in the whole organization of the Waterboyz, essentially, that kind of convoluted it. So basically they plagued the whole organization, and he thinks that everyone in there is basically a crash out. Because according to him, a teenager died and other things happened, and he doesn't want that to be on the streets. Drew does not like what's being said on television, so he kind of shakes his head and he definitely disagrees. Shortly after that, his mother walks in, played by Lala Anthony, and she got a fat ass.
Man, fuck! I'm coming!
That was too good.
She his mama in the movie, so, she talking about bills and shit like that, you know what I mean? Regular mama shit you did. And he hear his mom saying this, and he pull out a wad of cash, and he put it on the table, just to take the load off and shit like that. Some cool shit, It really looked like hella money for real. It looked like the nigga took out a rack, but I don't know, it's probably like $800, maybe $600 or some shit like that. She looking at bro like, where the fuck you get this money from? Like, she ain't yell at him or nothing and shit, but she like, what the hell, nigga? And she didn't know that he was even selling water. So, naturally she asked him, and he told her the exact truth. He said, oh, I'm selling water. He didn't have to say, I'm not selling drugs. He just told her he was selling water. And he didn't say, I'm not selling drugs. He just kind of answered that way. And, she still didn't really seem like she liked it because, I guess, the motherly instinct is that, I don't want my baby out there in the streets because it could still get pretty tricky and shit. But, yeah. Later on, you learn that her boyfriend or her husband, I don't know if they were married, he ends up getting murdered in the streets. So she has a very logical and very valid reason why she doesn't want him to be wandering the streets selling water, even if it is for a good cause, and even if it is, for however long it is. She just wants her baby to be safe. She does a really good job of like really showcasing her range in this. She definitely is probably one of the better actors in this movie, other than the main character. Everybody else basically does a better job than the main character, and I feel bad because it's probably like his first major starring role, but he literally is so terrible in this movie. He's ass, bro. Like his acting is It feels like artificial intelligence. And later on, you end up coming across his love interest in the movie, and her shit is it's better, but it feels kind of like similar. But I don't know if this is her first movie either. But she's eons better than him. Anyway, his mother is pretty vigilant and she's very concerned, and it's pretty consistent throughout the rest of the movie. So she does a really good job here, like I said. Even though he has good reasons as to why he does what he does and wants to continue doing it, she wants him to do something else, so he applies at Walmart. It doesn't work out for him for whatever fucking reason. He just quits or something and goes back to the streets and starts selling water. And yeah, stupid fucking guy. Sometime later, they end up going to a party, and that's where he sees his love interest, the one I was talking about just a little while ago. And what bothers me about Drew is that we know he's a square. I'm a square, so I can detect when someone's a square. So he walks into the party, and it's a very laid-back party. It's not even a party for real. It's really like a kickback session. You know, people is talking about, you know, drugs and all that kind of shit, and, you know, obviously he ain't with none of that, right? But, you know, you go in there and niggas is just smoking and drinking and shit, but you don't see it for a few minutes. But he goes in there and you see his face and he's like, bro, what the fuck? And you see people in the back, like no one's dancing, no one's twerking, no one's doing anything crazy, but he wants to leave. Until he sees his love interest. And he walks up to her pretty dramatically, walks up to her kind of slow. The pulse of the music changes a little bit because, you know, I really don't fucking know, but like the music isn't really fitting to the scene for me, especially considering that they're young and the music felt very out of place. It felt like some 1970s type beat. Not that that's a bad thing in general, but it's like why did you choose this instrumental? Like, I know you probably couldn't afford Summer Walker or SZA or Tink or something like that, but you could have played something a little more like trap related or something like some contemporary R&B beat. Anyway, that's a nitpick. He walks up to her and they have a conversation, and, you know, eventually they dance and they walk off the party, and, you know, they're kind of kicking it now. You know, they're vibing and shit. By the way, there's no sex in this movie at all. He never fucks, but that's okay. Poor guy, but it's cool, you know. I love pussy. Sorry. Fast forward though, they hit the block, you know, and they selling water again and stuff. And then eventually two adults approach them about some positive shit. You know, like some community outreach type shit. And it's actually great timing because they intervene between Damani's crew and, you know, Drew's crew, having like a little back and forth, like a little verbal bout about, you know, territory and all of that type of shit. You know, niggas is just selling water, and then them niggas over there selling drugs or whatever. I think they're selling water as well, actually, but they're selling water and drugs. So I think those niggas are what's convoluting everything, because they think the Waterboyz as an entity, the mayor thinks the Waterboyz as an entity is literally just plaguing the community in a terrible way. And I think that's why the gentleman and his wife, I guess, walk up and they're talking about an initiative that they can take, and, you know, how, you know, he wants to be a force in the community alongside his wife or whoever the fuck this lady is. By the way, her acting is fucking forced. It feels just as bad as Drew's. Like, it's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know where the fuck Coke Daniels found these people, and respect to them and stuff like that, because it could just be this movie, and, you know, things are different when you're on camera and you have a whole crew. Like, people get nervous and shit like that, and yeah, but it's like, it's still something I noticed. It was bad to me, but I mean, if you can tolerate it, it's cool. But yeah, anyway, that's over with. And then fast forward, you know what I'm saying, Drew, he go to a little spot with his little girl now, you know what I'm saying. She ain't his girlfriend, but he take her on a date and shit. They both kind of nervous and shit. They both kind of like, you know, like stiff and stale and shit like that. But they vibing and shit. And according to Drew, he think it's like real lit. He said it to one of his homeboys or whatever and shit. And he gets his first kiss from the girl in the scene. You know, she kisses him on the cheek and stuff, but, you know, it's cute. She gave him like a little peck on the cheek like a little 12-year-old. The shit was adorable, my nigga. So naturally, after she leave, he go about his business, and bro happy as fuck because, he got this pretty ass black girl, that just gave him a kiss and shit like that on the cheek. Bro, like, life is good right now, you know what I'm saying? Young nigga shit. So fast forward, it's back to the block. You know what I'm saying? They selling water and all that type of shit. And then eventually his mama, Drew, his mama, she hosts a party, right? And it's a little private occasion, but all his homeboys is invited. All the niggas who be selling water in the hood and shit like that. I don't want to say the hood. It really look like the suburbs or whatever and shit, but we gonna say the hood, right? And he invited Shorty. She show up late, but she show up nonetheless. For some reason, Quavo is in the neighborhood, and that nigga pulled up. How the fuck he get the address? I don't know. Bro said when he pulled up, right? He said that he heard music playing and shit, and he figured he'd stop by. I'm feeling like somebody tipped him off and was like, yeah, bro in there, like Damani or whatever. But that's never even explained in the movie. So who knows, really? It's just kind of there. But he pulls up and, like I said, Quavo's character is a whole fucking crash out. And it's another crash out in this movie, too. It's Dolo. Dolo is the crash out. And like I said, Dolo is a whole crash out, too. So he doesn't really give a fuck about anything that they're saying. He honestly wants out and he's trying to get the fuck up out of there. Drew's like, nah, we should hear him out and all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? So he all in. And then, eventually they leave after they hear everything and shit about the whole uniform shit. Obviously, he's still not fucking with it. And, Dolo talking about getting strapped up, getting guns and shit, because it's greasy out this motherfucker. It's crazy, Drew does not like that shit. He do not want to get into no whole gunplay and shit like that. He really just in this shit for the money because he got an agenda, because he just want to go to school and he want to get money the legal way and shit like that. So, like I said, he got a good head on his shoulders and shit. So, once again, it's back to the block to sell waters. Only now they're wearing uniforms. So anyway, an OG pulls up, Drew approaches the car, and they have an interaction. Drew gets the money, and the guy tells him, oh, I have a little situation, why don't you come by or whatever. It's legal, just so you guys know. But yeah, they have that interaction. Drew goes about his day, and then the young niggas pull up, Damani and his crew, the niggas who would be selling drugs. They up the shit on them. Them niggas disperse, and now Dolo is hot. He's upset. He wants to kill niggas, because niggas tried to kill them. Rightfully so. I understand that. And Drew doesn't like it. He doesn't want to do the whole gunplay thing because, like I said, he just wants to make money and, get the fuck out of Atlanta, really. And, Dolo doesn't like that shit. So he storms off and everybody else kind of just disperses as well. And that's the end of that scene. Luckily, two niggas caught this whole interaction. For some reason, they weren't moving the entire time this interaction was going on, even though those niggas were shooting. Like, these niggas were very still recording this. They weren't jumping around or running while the shooting was going on. Like, they just caught it, like, stable as fuck. But, that's another little nitpick, but I thought that was kind of funny. The story hits the news, and the mom is back home, and she's fucking terrified. She doesn't know if her son's alive. She doesn't know if he's running home. She doesn't know what the fuck to think. But Drew comes home and he doesn't want to talk about it. He's just very, very, very upset. And so is she, rightfully so. She does not want him selling water anymore after this. And, she is just going on and on and on about how he shouldn't do it. He's pleading his case. He's like, oh, there's nothing else to do. Both have valid arguments and shit, but she's obviously trying to be understanding, but he's also trying to be a little understanding a little bit too. The next scene, he goes to go see the guy that pulled up on him earlier and stuff like that, which is a little more on the brighter side, so that's cool. I just want to note that this nigga said before, the next scene happened, if I'm going to die, I want to do something with my life. I want to die doing something with my life, something like that. And this nigga basically said he wants to die selling water. Bro, stupid as fuck. And now's the point where the whole situation just kind of goes downhill. They can't even sell water within city limits anymore because after that shit that just happened, the mayor caught on and he's like, yeah, that's what the fuck I thought. All y'all niggas crash outs. Y'all ain't making no money on this block. So now it's a heavy, heavy, heavy fucking police presence. And it's heavy police activity. And basically, that's there. So ultimately, he can have them arrested for merely selling bottled waters. Now, this would never happen, obviously, in real life unless there was a correspondence to them selling drugs alongside it. So I thought this was so fucking stupid. But, I mean, it happened in the movie, so, I mean, it's a part of the plot, I guess. Drew and Dolo are literally on their way to going to jail. Like, they're literally being, like, patted down by police, and, the police officer from earlier sees them, and she's like, okay, I'll drive you guys home, and I'll talk to you guys in the car or whatever. As usual, Dolo doesn't want to hear anything. Drew is kind of quiet. He's the more passive one. And Dolo, he's like, nah, fuck all of that. I don't like how we can't make money and blah, 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 blah. And then eventually they just go make money somewhere else, somewhere else in Atlanta. And they think everything is cool. Until Quavo comes over there and fucking kills Dolo. And that's kind of like basically the end of the movie. Dolo dies, and I don't know what the fucking moral of the movie is. I don't know if it's like, oh, well, don't sell water in the hood because you'll die. But I don't know how the fuck Quavo knew where these niggas were every single time. Especially if we don't know his foot soldiers. They didn't show us any indications of any of that. Like, the budget did not go to the nuances of this movie. So it's just like, it really pissed me off. This movie's ass. So that's my review. This movie sucks.